Hello, good afternoon to you and welcome to our special coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Vivian Kailoko. We'll bring you up to date on all that is happening around this pandemic, the latest to it and all that. In a bit, I'll introduce to you my panel for this afternoon. My name is Vivian Kailoko. Stay with us. We'll be right back. So you're welcome back to our special coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me introduce to you my panel for today. I have with me Godfred Akoto-Boafo. He's the head of current affairs. He also hosts Face to Face. He's also on the Citi Breakfast Show. Another corporate on the Citi Breakfast Show is Kojo Akoto-Boafo.
So you're doing a double dose of Akoto.
A double dose of Akotos and a double dose of host on the Breakfast Show and a double dose of corporate. So we have Kojo Akoto-Boafo. He's also the head of research, also head of new media, and is with the Citi Breakfast Show on radio. Gentlemen, welcome to today's coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, luckily for us today, there have not been any new cases recorded. In fact, the cases that were tested over some period, we're told all are negative. So I don't know whether I'll let Kojo run us through the latest on that using the Citi newsroom.com graph to give us the latest on this pandemic.
So at the moment, we are at yesterday's figures, if I can put it that way. The last update on COVID-19, the Ghana picture, was yesterday around midday. And then we're told that so far we have 152 cumulative cases. And we have 5 deaths, 2 recoveries. And so our active cases at the moment are 145 in Ghana. That's where we are now. Now, yesterday we also got to know about the 10 Guineans who tested positive for COVID-19, who are going to be repatriated. And we've also been told about how testing is going to be done going forward. So now things are becoming a bit more clearer. We know the way forward. Today the lockdown has begun. We've been told that testing is going to be a bit more rigorous. We are going to test more people in mandatory quarantine. We are going to test more people through the tracing. And then we are going to test all the people in the lockdown areas.
Yes, that's right.
That's what we understand.
Okay, so Godfred, with that, the testing, which has become the big thing now, a great move it is, but is it plausible looking at what we have as a country in terms of resources and all that?
Yeah, it has to become plausible, Vivian. If you look at the situations globally, the best examples we have seen are those who have found ways of doing the testing. Now, what I appreciate about the Ghanaian circumstance is the fact that there's a certain nuance to it. We know the popular acclaim is everybody should be tested. Why don't you test everybody? But if you listen to the experts in the space, they'll tell you that you can test 1,000 and you might get 10. That's a waste of resources. So until you show certain symptoms. Now, the next best thing to do is to test those who have come up as part of the surveillance and the contact testing, because at least those ones you are guaranteed they have been in the same space, geographical space, as persons with confirmed cases. And so there's a likelihood, and if you look at the percentages we have seen so far, it looks like once that happens, you have close to a 40 to 50% chance of getting a positive test with those persons. So at least we know that the resources are going in the proper direction. Once we're able to do that, we know whether they fall into the category of the mild, the moderate, the severe, and the critical, and then we treat it that way. So for me, the upscaling testing by the government and the way in which it's been done, I think is the way to go. So far as the contact tracing, and for me that is where the crucial bit is, and I was happy to hear the information minister insist on Ghanaians providing accurate and truthful information, because without accurate and truthful information, this is going to go waste.
Yeah.
Because then you might say, oh, I was at A, but you weren't actually there. I was with B, but you actually weren't with B. They might go to that person and waste the test kits.
And even disclosures, whether you are around people, because we've seen cases over the period where people were around people who had come in, imported cases, and never said anything.
Exactly. So it is important that people are very accurate with the disclosures that they make regarding this. That is the only way the testing path that we have chosen now will succeed. Because whether we like it or not, we are not going to be able to afford to do 500,000 tests. The lab capacity is not there. We have only 2 labs at the moment. In the sub-region, Nigeria is the one who's trying to upskill. They have 5. They're going to add 2. Now, the extra 2 they are adding is going to take 3 weeks to develop, for instance. We know that we are adding, I think, 2 more labs that they are still working on. Yes, exactly. So we are still trying to catch up with this. We need to do this in a way that fits our circumstances, and so far, I think we're on the right path.
But moving to the lockdown area proper to test, that means all of us are getting tested. Is that the understanding of that?
No, that is not.
Especially in the Accra, Tema, Kumasi. If they say after the quarantine part, after the others affected around that, and now you want to move into the lockdown parts proper, can you clarify that to viewers?
Okay.
What
now,
that
listening to the President's advisor, Dr. Anthony Nsiasare, who gave that particular explanation yesterday during the press briefing, he was very emphatic on what is going to happen. Now, the reason why they've done this one is to keep people where they are so that they can reach them. Now, whether to say that you can reach somebody might say, okay, but what if I decided to get on a bus and go to Kumasi? That will get us back to accurate information on contact tracing. So irrespective of whether you are in Accra, you move to Kumasi or Tamale, there's a lockdown in place. They will get to you and know that person A, B, or C.
But some have moved already.
Exactly. But if the information is accurate, you have a phone number. The person who gave the information knows where you are. So one way or the other, there's a 40 to 50% likelihood of finding you. Now, what is going to happen is that during the back tracing up to the 3rd of March, which includes a pool of about 30,000 people that they are going to try and reach, they are going through flight manifest, they are going through immigration documents. Everybody who falls within that range, they are going to call you, because anybody who comes through the country, obviously, you leave a phone number. There's a contact line on the immigration card.
The card,
So there's a first point of contact there. Now, once that is done, they say they will find you, whichever household you live in. Everybody who lives in that household, even if it's a compound house and you occupy just one room in that compound house, they are going to test everybody who lives in that compound house. That is the upscale that they are doing according to Dr. Anthony Nsiasare. So the lockdown is not that they are going to test everybody in the lockdown areas, but no, based on the 30,000 that they hope or they have put in the bowl that they are going to try and test, anybody who comes within that scope at the moment, irrespective of where you are, if they come and they speak to you and they say, okay, this is, they come to house number 8, Gadgesburg Avenue, and I live there. 12 people in the house, they are testing everybody, irrespective of where they've been, who they are. That is the plan for this one.
Yeah, and with the lockdown, if you look at the figures and the resources available, for example, in the locked down area in Greater Accra Metropolitan area, we are looking at a total population of people within this area. Total population is about 4.7 million people. If we say we are going to test all these people, who is going to make those test kits? Are they even available in the market? So they've deployed a structured way of prioritizing the tests. So people in mandatory quarantine, people who are known to have been in contact with them, and as Godfred explained, the people who are closest to the issues when it comes to the contact tracing. Now, in the Ashanti region, the Greater Kumasi Metropolitan area, we're looking at 3.1 million people in the lockdown area. So, Greater Kumasi plus Greater Accra, we're looking at a total of 7.9 million people. It's not possible to test all these people. And that's about 26% of the national population. It's not possible to test these people. But the structured and the tiered nature of what is going to happen optimize the resources we have, the facilities we have for testing, the test kits we have, and the human resource we have. And I'm sure that if we all adhere to this lockdown and do not go out and spread this, we can contain the situation gradually in the coming weeks, and you'll see some positive news.
Okay, so what we're seeing across...
We are unable to carry out what we are supposed to carry out to prevent this disease from entering Saboba. And so we are taking this decision as a people, collectively. And so it is neither here nor there. It is the youth that have organized and mobilized themselves to come here and to prevent people from entering, because we suspect that some people might import these things to our district. And you know that our health system is deficient. We will not be able to take care of these serious issues. And so that is what we are doing. We are preventing them from coming to spend the market, at least for today and maybe the subsequent markets, until we are all sure that the situation has died down, and then we can now go about our normal duties. These are extraordinary times, and so we are also feeling that we need to take some extraordinary measures in order to curb the spread of this disease, because it is much more horizontal in spreading. And so that is what we are doing. So we have already sent messages to our people in Yendi and other places not to come to market today, because they will not be allowed to enter Saboba.
So those are some youth from Saboba, obviously trying to stop people from coming in. The movement thing, I mean, even today I went on the streets, I met a couple of people who had come in from the hinterlands, thinking they are moving away from that and coming into the city. And then some who are going into the hinterlands feeling that it's better, you know. Are we understanding this movement with regards to this virus thing?
No, it's a universal phenomenon, and the education can never be concrete enough on this, because what motivates people to move goes beyond just hearing. Some of the persons who are moving are not people you would say can't read or write, or don't have any form of education, you know, both formal and informal. They understand what is going on. But the factors that urge one to move in such a circumstance goes beyond that. What people need to understand is, under these circumstances, you do not take the law into your own hands, irrespective of the primal instinct that says that we must protect ourselves, which is what the young men of Saboba sought to do by blocking the path and saying that you can't pass through because you might be passing through with COVID and whatnot. Obviously, there's a certain level of, there's a certain lack of information with regards to how the disease progresses and whatnot. But people need to calm down. People need to understand that this is a country of laws. People need to understand that people have freedom of movement that cannot be curtailed by other citizens under certain circumstances. And that is why the police and the military went there and said, hey, let's do this, remove the barriers. And it was a very peaceful thing, I must also say. It did not degenerate into any kind of ruckus. They did this in a very well organized manner. Even though people were still stranded, at least they were able to resolve that particular issue. But what we need to understand is people should not get into the mentality where they feel they need to take the law into their own hands, because otherwise, once you start encouraging that, you get into a situation where somebody meets somebody and says, I think you are going to infect me, and so, then I'm going to hit you or something, just to protect themselves. And we've seen cases like that. If you recall, in Kenya, there was a case where a young man went to drink, was coming back and was lynched, simply based on the people thinking that, okay, this guy is behaving irrationally, he's coughing and spitting, he's coming to infect us. They lynched him. And he was just drunk. That was all that he had done wrong. His only crime was being drunk. You know, so people need, I think when we have an opportunity like this, we must educate people. People must calm down, be reasonable and rational in how you engage with other people. Dr. Koboy said something quite interesting. He said you might feel that this person rather is the danger to you,
and it's
but
not,
it might not be the person. Somebody else might be the danger to you. And so let's all calm down and behave ourselves during this time.
Okay. And Vivian, on this border issues and calming down, I think we also should not leave vacuums in certain places, right? We know that our borders are very porous. If you take our mainland borders, for example, Burkina Faso has about 222 confirmed cases. We share a very long stretch of border with them, about 350 kilometers. And we know the official border crossings. But between the official border crossings, there are lots of unofficial border crossings, right? And so we need to strategically use the intelligence we have to place key trained law enforcement officers to patrol these unofficial border crossings. Because if we do not have trained people there, then the communities rise up on their own. And because they are not trained with the right protocols, it could also degenerate into something else. We share a border with Burkina to the north. We also share a border with Burkina to the west somehow, northwest. And the black water separates us and Burkina. And the same separates us and Cote d'Ivoire. And if you look at the data, Cote d'Ivoire has about 160 confirmed cases. So if we are strategic enough, we would put our armed forces and our trained security personnel at all these places. And the immigration has the intel on all these unapproved crossings, so that we won't leave that work to untrained community members. That way, we are organizing the protection of our borders. If we don't do that, we'll put the communities in danger. Because look, if I'm a community person and somebody is coming, we don't know whether the person is negative or positive, and we want to drive them away, there is the likelihood of contact happening.
But do we have the resource to do that? I'm just remember when we went on the heritage caravan, the Volta region, for example, the border, you know, for Volta and then Togo. I mean, in certain cases, just like the street of Adabaka, Togo on your left, Ghana on your right, and the people move in and out. You know, one gets to get food here, the other gets, you know, some goods from there. And all these areas, all these open places, can we man all that realistically?
I think realistically we can do that. There are some of the border towns which are such that no matter what you do, they still have to communicate. Like the towns we saw in the Volta region, right? It's just a road that separates them. But beyond the road, there's a stretch of land that divides Ghana and Togo proper. Even though geographically they are within Togo, you understand? If you look at our security forces, we have about 25,000 policemen, okay, in the Ghana police service. We have about 12,000 to 15,000 in the Ghana armed forces. We have immigration, we have fire service, and we have the others. If we are putting all these numbers together, I want to assume that we could have a minimum of 30,000 armed and trained security forces available, who we can deploy strategically at some of these places to ensure we protect our borders and allow people from entering. If we do that and we put trained people there, we'll be reducing the risk that some of these communities face. Go to the north.
So just to give viewers an idea of what is happening. So these are some ladies from Agboglushi, these Kayaye and all these things. They're running away from Accra to the north. They were actually stopped at Ejusu, you know, by the police, you know. Comes back to what we're saying about the movements, quick movements, and you don't know who is moving with what and all that. But could you carry on?
Yes, so as I was saying, when you go to the north, between the last town in Burkina Faso and the first town in Ghana, if I'm to use that analogy, you have a distance of just 20 to 30 kilometers separating these towns. So it's technically like from walking from here to Ashalebote or Adenta. They are that close. So we need our trained people there. Now, on the movement of the Kayaye to the north, there is an analogy that I believe in. Look, you baby, ko baby. That's what we say in Cree, right? And Amatu has a song like that. If you are in the urban areas and you are poor in the urban areas, you feel the pinch more than being poor in your own village. Because at least there is a social structure that will give you a bit of a respite. So if you are in your village, you are likely to have a room to sleep in. You are likely to get some water or some food to eat somehow. But if you are in the city and you don't have a place to sleep, you are likely to sleep pavements, in front of shops, in kiosks. And at these particular times, those are not the places you want people to sleep. Number two, when it comes to getting access to the basics that people need, when you're in your village, you are rest assured that people may share food and the basic things. If you're here in the city and there should be any shortage, it may be very difficult for you to get what you need. So I wasn't surprised to see them going back home in their numbers, because it's safer for them there than in the cities.
But these people, I mean, if we go by what is happening, infected 1 or 2 people. At the same time, we're seeing people from the cities, all these crowded places, moving outside. What strategy do we have to track all these people in case they may have picked something along the line?
That's a difficult question, but it's also a plausible risk. You know, the situation you've just painted is one that could happen. You know, in situations like this, you might have to take your chance. these things, because if you also look at the data, a lot of the quick increases in the rapid increases in country cases have come because of clusters where people have met. So, for instance, you had the cases going down in Korea, then suddenly went up again because some people decided to go and meet somewhere in Daegu. In France, you had the same thing. In Italy, you had the same thing. In Spain, you had the same thing. In the US, New Orleans at the moment, there was a point they had just 25 cases.
Yeah.
Then they decided to organize Mardi Gras, where 50,000 people were standing in one street. Within 2 weeks, they are catching up to New York. Their numbers are going up. So there's always a danger of you getting cluster cases and a community spread, especially when you have these kinds of movements. But like I said again, you can't help it, because you can't have a situation where you say, don't move. If you say don't move, people will still move irrespective. So there are those who have made the argument that the president shouldn't have given a 2-day leeway. There is no, you see, the way this outbreak is, Vivian, there is no perfect scenario for this. Now I'll give you a typical example. India organized an immediate shutdown. Look at that, look at the chaos that ensued over the weekend, where you had millions of people simply trying to go home because they couldn't find rice to eat. This is the country with the largest population of day laborers in the world. They couldn't find food, and like Ojo was saying, when it becomes a matter of survival, how are you going to tell people that don't stay here or don't do that? Okay, so it's a risk that comes with the situation. There is no perfect formula for handling this. What must be done is what perhaps we have heard announced, the announcement of certain areas in some of these, in other parts of the countries that will also have testing capacity. And for me, that was interesting. In Chirapa, for instance, where they set up a control center. As soon as buses arrive, they get you off the bus, they take you to a place, they sensitize you on what to do, they take your temperature, and then they take your contacts as well. I am hoping that situation is one that will be replicated across the country, so that one way or the other, we will still have ways of reaching these people, because at least one will have a phone and might know. And in those areas, they are easier to trace than in Accra, because these are communal areas. Everybody knows everybody. Okay, so it's a plausible risk, but we must also understand, Vivian, there is no perfect scenario. Countries are making this up as they go, by day by day by day. And you might realize that a strategy might work in country A today. You adopt it, and then that strategy fails in that country. But it even fails in that country that you've adopted it from. And then you ask yourself,
because, you know, just a few days ago, everybody was praising India. And they were doing a terrific job.
I was going to mention that, and Godfrey said it very well. There's no perfect strategy for this, because India spent some time to plan. They banned exports. They made sure they were stocking strategic stuff they will need, so their reserves will be good. Right. Even that, see what they are dealing with. Now let's look at lockdown scenarios in places like Jordan. They locked down Jordan in days. People were angry. People wanted to just hit the streets.
And they took it off.
You look at other places, well-organized communities, lockdown, but people still struggle, right? And when the conversation about lockdown in Ghana came up, people were like, how are we going to do this to survive? Because Ghana, we are in a state of planlessness. We are this, we don't have this, we don't have this. One of the things that I thought would make us survive is our state of planlessness. Because we've always said that, look, we have too many shops. Look at Adabraka, right behind you in the glass. Every 10 meters, you see a corner shop selling something. All around our communities, every 10 meters, you see a corner shop. So, per the analysis, you see that we have shops distributed all across the country, where at least when people need basics, they can get something. Elsewhere, you'd have to travel, say, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers to go to the big mall. So if movement is restricted, sort of, and you don't have these corner shops and all this planlessness around you, it puts you in a dire situation. So you cannot copy and paste somebody's strategy for your country. Ghana is different, the US is different, India is different. One thing that I was happy about was to listen to the Minister of Agric about the arrangements being made for food. And I want to assume also that they've done a calculation of the strategic stocks we need for basic things like rice. If you look at our annual consumption, we consume, say, this amount of bags, right? The last time we did the calculation, we consume about 16 million bags of the 5 kg bags in a month in Ghana. So can we call all the rice distributors and check the stocks that they have? Can we check the paddy up in the north and the water and ask if we are to mail these, would it meet the numbers we may need? Should this situation continue? Sugar, what stocks do we have?
Yeah.
And the other things. For vegetables and tomatoes, we know that they have a shorter maturity time. There are some vegetables you can grow, and in 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you have something you are going to eat. But the things that we do not have control over, we should take our strategic stocks and see how, if our stocks are not enough, we can add on.
Okay.
That way we know that we are making a headway. But the most important thing that people should, the best way for you to stop the spread, make sure you go according to the protocols. That's the with this COVID-19 situation.
Okay, so partial lockdown in motion. Day 1, your assessment.
Well,
then we'll come to the details. So just a general assessment.
I would give it a 60%.
Okay.
In my estimation, I think there was still too much movement.
Okay.
You know, people, there was.
So this is, I believe, Circle.
Yes.
I went to this place earlier. Pretty dead a bit.
Yes.
Like, yeah, but when I was coming to work from my house, from Tertiary Estates to Citi FM, there was a lot of movement.
Exactly.
From my side.
From your
but
side.
Circle was dead.
And like
okay,
I got reports from Spintex as well.
Yeah.
There was quite a lot of movement as well. And in other parts of the country, if I got a video from Umar Usanda on the main stretch that leads out of Accra into the Volta region,
yes,
for instance. The Sutrare Junction barrier. There was a lot of traffic on that road, you know. But like I said, I gave it 60% because there were a lot of what I call curiosity seekers as well on the road. People who just wanted to have a feel. And it's
so they are not really under essentials, but they just want to.
People wanted to just have a feel.
What
because
you was called the Intrishemu or what?
and that is those we are advising that, look, it's important to stay home.
Yeah.
But there's also a nature of man where he wants to experience something that he hasn't experienced before and feels that he cannot experience that whilst he's out. So I must go out there. And I listened to an audio, for instance, this afternoon of a guy who was asked, why are you out? He was like, oh, I wanted to see. I wanted to get a feel. And they're like, what do you want to get a feel of? I was like, I want to see what I can do. I can walk. So he went out and walked. You understand? So over a period of time, we will get used to staying at home. We will get used to not being allowed to do the things that we normally do. For now, it's the first day. Our parents might take this easier than we will, because our parents are used to such situations. We are used to doing what we want to do, and so you will have clusters of resistance, not in a violent manner, but people simply testing the boundaries of the law. And we've seen videos of some of them paying for it in all kinds of ways. But it can be better, in my estimation. We need to take this seriously. The persons out there who simply want to step out of their homes because they feel, okay, let me see what this is about. If you don't have business being out there. And I listened to the conversation Bernard Avle had yesterday with on this same program, where he made a crucial point. People seem to be offended that they are not on the exempted list, in essential services. You should not be offended that you are not on it. You should be happy. You see, because the essential services are the ones who are out there. Imagine journalists going into hospitals simply to tell you at home, in the comfort of your home, what is happening. How many cases are there? That journalist could also be home. But that journalist is considered essential service. If I bring you from your house and say, okay, you go to Ridge and go and report on COVID, you say, hey, I don't want to go.
My friend.
But at the same time, you are home upset that you are not part of the essential services. So I think people should consider themselves privileged, okay, that they have been moved to a situation where they don't have to expose themselves to the dangers that could probably give you this disease, and stay home. I'm expecting that, Vivian, by the end of the week, our behaviors will improve. For a first day, like I said, it's a satisfactory outcome. Hopefully, we can get to an excellent outcome.
Okay, could you assess me?
I don't know whether I can give a rating now, but the distance I covered this morning to work was quite short. And I noticed that traffic was almost like at a 0%. Because it's one of the hottest routes in this city. From the police headquarters all the way to Circle to Adabraka, and the traffic was really minimal.
So that's Tiptoe Lane, very busy area when it's not this. But look at that.
In the morning, I counted just about 3 people around that area when I was driving on the overpass. Right, and I've been monitoring the Google Live traffic, the traffic map, right, and the places I'm seeing a bit of traffic and movement, like in Accra, you see the motorway, the Accra toll booth side. You see a bit of an orange and a red because people are still using the motorway and they have to pay their tolls. If you check the various checkpoints, if you are going to Ebri, Ayumensa, you see an orange, meaning there are vehicles there, either paying tolls or vehicles being denied movement into Ebri. You check the Dawenya area and there's a bit of traffic. That's also a checkpoint, right? You go to the Kaswa side, the Kaswa toll booth, you see the traffic. But on the main arteries and the main roads in the city, you see all green. And at this particular point, on any regular day, the least you should see is light orange. But now we are seeing all green. Meaning that from this data that I'm seeing, because we don't have to go out much, right? It means that generally, people have not gone out. Generally, movement has been limited. But the few cases of people trying to be daredevils, or what you try to say in another way, trying to show that they are also men, so they want to go out to feel the situation. That doesn't protect anybody. And we've also seen, we've not heard reports of police or the military brutalizing people, like some people feared prior to this. So for me, I think it's been good. It could get better. All the people running around not having any essential thing to do should go back home, and they should remain there in the interest of the public.
Let me take you guys to Kaswa on enforcement and the movement. And we have a video of some 16 persons who were arrested at Kaswa. They had no business in town. They decided to come into town. Let's see how the Joint Police and Military Task Force addressed that situation.
It's based electrician, but yesterday even your master talk say make you close. We talk and say okay, we are here, but he say make it come Kaswa come take our clothes and go. That's why we can't take their clothes and go. Why you can't take us make it come stay here? Why am I afraid? Because I know me some before. This is my first time.
So we read the road top where someone soldier be drop us say where we go where we explain give them. So we explain give them where you talk us say like make you no go. So we get a seconds from the Kumasi where we come here. So we want to take the seconds go on a village there. So make you no go, make come here.
Our grandmother sent us to go and buy credit, and the time we are on the way come and they arrested us.
Are you not aware that there's a lockdown and people are not supposed to go out?
Yes.
You are not aware?
Yes, but I don't know that this place is bad. Because yesterday some people came around and they spray here. So I wasn't aware that they will come today too.
We told them that our grandmother said to go and buy credit. And said that why the two of us are going to buy the credit. And so I should come and sit here.
So are you worried that you have been detained?
Yes.
So have you been able to call your grandmother and inform her?
No.
Yes.
Now you're on the way going, but we wasn't aware that they are here. And we are just trying to get some of the credits because we need it now. And we wasn't aware that he's here, that's why.
So that's somebody doing, into a wine.
Let's take us back.
So these, people are just flouting the rules. I don't know.
Let me just read something for you before Kojo comes, since I've already discussed this. Now, Afrobarometer, today, just about 20 minutes ago, released a finding based on some work that they had done. And it says that Ghanaians' acceptance of security-related restrictions faces test with COVID-19 lockdown. Now, if you look at the key findings, it says that in the late 2019, 3/4 of Ghanaians said the government should be able to curtail people's movement in the face of threats to security. The willingness to accept government restrictions on movement was lower in Greater Accra, which was 64%, than in the Ashanti region, which was at 79%. And if you look at the reports that we've had today, it will confirm these findings. We haven't had too many incidents in Kumasi. We've had quite a few arrests and people misbehaving in Accra. They also said that a lockdown may pose particular challenges for Ghanaians experiencing lived poverty, and that had to do with situations that we've already discussed, with especially with the situation that Kojo described. Also essential services, access to water and whatnot. And today we've had a lot of complaints about water. People in Pram especially have been sending messages all day.
And electricity, recharging
as well.
Digitally.
So that is what will push people to find it hard to accept a lockdown, not because it's not good for them, but simply because they feel that they have more essential things. And what is considered essential is relative. You understand?
Yeah.
What the government might consider non-essential, for that boy's grandmother, the credit at that moment was the most essential thing in her life.
Yes.
So,
but the credit, people should be allowed to sell credit. How do they communicate?
Or if you have mobile money, you recharge your account and you can buy credit using your mobile money.
Yeah, we should teach people to do that.
But the Afrobarometer report that Godfrey just read, it's interesting. So whereas people in Kumasi will be more cooperative when it comes to security-related restrictions.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm looking at the Google live traffic map, and I'm seeing more traffic hotspots within the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area compared to what I'm seeing in the Greater Accra metropolitan area. For example, if you go to certain parts of the CBD, you see pure red, indicating that there are traffic jams and there's movement is not going on very well, right? If you go to the Asafo area, where the mosque is, you see an orange showing that there are vehicles on the move. So comparatively, even though they are more supportive of security-related restrictions based on the Afrobarometer, what the live map is telling me is that people in Accra are moving. There's less movement in Accra compared to movement within the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area, which is a very, very interesting thing we are seeing with the data. But all in all, people should know that staying at home is to protect them. And this I'll continue to say. Staying at home is to protect them. And the essentials they need, number one, is your life. Without your life, the food you are going to chase, the clothes you want to buy at this time, when you don't have a wedding, a funeral, work to go, church to go.
How are you going to wear it to?
All those things are just wants. They are not needs. So let's find our needs. Water. Great. You have electricity. Great. There's security because there are police and armed forces deployed in all our communities. Right. And the few things. Food. Going out at this time also puts the security agencies at risk. Because if you have it, sometimes some people try to resist and force may be applied. And in the application of the force, there will be contact. That is somebody's child you are putting at risk. So if you don't have any business going out, stay at home.
So let's stay with the essential services. And we went to Kolegono to see how they are dealing with essential services, for example, public toilets and all that, which you see large crowds of them and they have to share that. But how did they go about that? Let's have the video from Kolegono. I think Caleb Kuda filed a report and see how it went over there.
In Ghana, the facilities are few. It's not like the Europe one. When they tell you there's a lockdown, all of them will stay at home because they have got their apartments and all sort of things. But here, the public toilet, they have to use the public toilet. So early in the morning like that, people come to toilets a lot, so you have to come. That's why you've seen me here.
Okay. So you've been there?
Yeah.
Okay.
With going to toilets.
I'm into a public to the gyms. I went to the gyms.
The public toilet. Okay. What do you think about the lockdown?
It's good. It's good. It's good to protect all of us. It's a good idea.
What do you think about some of the essential services that have been allowed? To open,
it's also good.
Like the public toilet.
Yes, it's also good.
If it wasn't open, how would it have affected you?
Because there's none in my house. There's none in my house. There's no public toilet.
I would advise people to take care of themselves, wash their hands, and then try to be clean always.
Right. So there's a partial lockdown, but you're able to use the public toilet. How good is that for you?
Oh, not all that deep, but we manage. Anytime I visit the toilet, I wash my hands.
So that's a colleague on sharing that public toilet over there, falling within the essential services, and you know what it is and what it is, what it is. But let me take you guys quickly to the judiciary. You know, they are part of the people that are exempted, but there's a statement given clear details of how that arm should go around their business. So. It says, in implementing His Excellency's directives, the following steps have been taken by the judiciary to ensure that the critical services rendered by this arm of government is made available during this period as the exigencies of the situation demand. So it says, 1, the restrictions imposed on the citizenry of Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi affect all lawyers and litigants and or other court users, since these categories of persons were not exempted. 2, for this reason, registrars are directed to adjourn all cases listed during this period to dates in May and June 2020. In Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi, the courts listed in Schedule A and B, I'll give you them soon, are designated to deal with critical cases which may arise. For example, breaches arising from the restriction orders and other criminal matters. The Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal are available to handle urgent cases as may be determined by the Chief Justice during this period. Registries of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal will be open during this period. Now, support staff who fall in certain categories have already been requested to take their annual leave. The following skeletal staff will, however, be required to be in place to support the designated court. So we have the registrars, the cashiers, court clerks, interpreters, recorders, and bailiffs. All other staff will be required to apply for their leave during the period of the restriction. Administrative officers will be manned by skeletal staff determined by heads of departments to ensure that critical services are rendered during this period. Earlier press releases issued by the judiciary on the 10th and 20th March of this year, which outline COVID-19 protocols, still apply. Once again, the cooperation of the general public will be greatly appreciated. So this coming from the judiciary. People were asking whether the lawyers are allowed to go out and all that. They're saying that lawyers and litigants, please go and stay somewhere, unless it has to do with Supreme Court and Appeal Court, and that should even be determined by the Chief Justice and all that. Interesting with these movements. Right?
Yeah, and support staff who fall in certain categories also requested to take their annual leave. And those who are in place, again, just to reiterate what you said, registrars, cashiers, court clerks, interpreters, recorders, and bailiffs. So this is the skeletal staff. So this is what is going to happen at the courts. Well, COVID strikes again.
Considering the fact that we are deploying our security agencies to ensure that the lockdown is successful, I think this is in the right direction. Because we know that in certain instances, there are certain cases that require prosecutors, right? And I want to assume that a lot of these prosecutors and the people in the police service may be co-opted into the lockdown enforcement team. So we may not have enough people. And the direction also to judges to adjourn cases to latter dates also makes it really functional for the judicial system. At least you don't have pending cases because judges have been instructed to adjourn cases to a later date. So this really works, and I pray that the learned men and women in the profession will also stick to this, because we need everybody at home.
Okay, right. So another issue that is big with regards to commercial vehicles is the cost the fares, whether we'll see hikes, reductions, whether we'll see government giving them waivers and all that. But Kojo Ajiman went to town to see what the situation is proper. Have they increased the fares? Is government giving them any form of, waiver to absorb what the numbers will see in reducing the numbers in the trotros, etc. So let's take that video from Kojo and then we'll deal with that matter.
This is the Circle main station. This station used to be a vibrant one and a busy one, of course. But because of the COVID-19 lockdown, this station is not too busy as we have observed over the years. I've seen passengers boarding the urban buses, the commercial urban buses, others also coming out of the buses. Let me get close to them and ask them how they are observing the social distancing rule at the station on the bus, and also how the drivers are treating the whole lockdown issue. Let me get close to some of them and then talk to them. This Mercedes-Benz bus, so it loads from Circle to Bubuasi. Let me get close inside. I've seen that 4 passengers are in, 1 at the front seat, and then you see 3 inside. Let me get close to them and ask them what is the seating arrangement from wherever they were coming from.
I was coming from Taifa, and the sitting arrangement was 2-2. But right now I'm getting to Bubuasi, and it is 3-3.
So it means that the drivers are observing the social distancing rule in the trotros.
Yes, yeah.
How do you feel about this whole restriction?
Oh, I'm okay.
This master bus is also loading from Circle to Mamprobi Banana Inn. Let me talk to one gentleman who is at the front seat. So what is the sitting arrangement like?
Okay, it's not too bad. As I came in, I was seeing that there is no more plenty people in town. So as we are sitting one by one in each car, I thought if this thing pass out when you sit in the car 3-3, it will be better for us.
Now, hitherto, drivers here were loading their cars to full capacity. So if it's an urban bus, 1 seat will take 3 passengers. If it's a Benz bus, 1 seat will take 4 passengers. But that is not the case. They are, loading 2 for an urban bus and then 3 for a Mercedes-Benz bus. Let me talk to some of the owners of the cars here, or some of the station masters here, who will tell us the arrangement they've had with government.
I think the education is from you, the media. You have already
Okay, so Kojo, interesting, right?
Yes, very interesting. So the lady said she picked the trotro from a certain point. It was 2-2, and they got to a certain point and it was 3-3. Now the thing is, monitoring these trotros and ensuring that we enforce the laws with them will take extra manpower.
Okay.
So if you remember very well, sometime last year, we did an analysis of urban transports within Accra using Ayalolo as reference. And we argued that we have 247 buses bought for Ayalolo, and only 18, each of them has a capacity to take about 80 people, right? Now, at this particular point, .6 million passengers every month in this city, if you are doing the contra flow analysis.
Okay.
Now, Ayalolo is something that we can monitor and ensure compliance to social distancing. So I thought that we would deploy these buses in Kumasi and in Accra. Give Accra 140, give Kumasi 100. If you look at what is happening within the system right now, and you're even going to divide the 86,000 a day passengers in Accra by 3 so that we enforce social distancing, we could be doing close to 30,000 passengers in a day, which would give the healthcare workers and the various people, the people performing essential services, the assurance that at least, even when it comes to transportation, there's a safer option. I'm not seeing that, and I really believe that that's one of the best options we can have. Put our Lolo on our streets, let them work, let them ensure social distancing, let them go around the clock, because we are now looking at a reduced population. I'm not sure that the people who will be in the essential services group within this city is up to 50,000 people. Just about 15,000, 20 people thereabout. So these things can really help us to do with that. If we leave it to the church operators, they will do whatever suits them. And we've seen that all around us. Even seat belts. We've been trying to force them to have seat belts, ensure basic safety mechanisms in their buses. They are not doing that. And for me, this is an opportunity for us to put our buses on the streets. Metro Mass, if we are not doing intercity, we could co-opt some of their buses to do intracity, so that we protect people who have to be on the move and not leave them at the mercy of these church drivers who do things at their own will.
And a lot of his car broke down in the middle of the road on his way to work. He was told he can't get it fixed because Aboso Kind spare parts dealers aren't working. And he's asking why they under essential services. Okay, this one says, okay, these are all praises to you. Okay, this one says, I run a veterinary pharmacy. Can I work?
But it depends on where the veterinary is. That will be the big question. So if you can tell us where he lives. Because if it's within his community, it might be okay. But if he has to move from where, then it means he's going to work, because that is his actual job. And per the listing we have, it is not essential. And you see, that's what I said when it comes to what is considered essential. If everybody is allowed to have his or her definition of what is essential, everybody will go to town.
Maybe, Godfred, on this, we may need clarification from the ministry, because my understanding of the work of a vet is a bit more essential. That's my understanding. For example, if I have a poultry farm and food producers must be working, and I need essential medicine now, and we won't let vets work, and I don't have stock, how do I then deal with that particular issue? So maybe we may need clarification from the ministries responsible for that. If you have dogs at home and there's anything which you need to deal with immediately. So I don't know. I feel, knowing the work of vets and in our food chain, the role they can play, maybe they may be essential or not, but the ministry people should really set the record straight on this. Okay.
This one says, can all food vendors be tested before they are allowed to operate? Imagine the mass that will be infected by just one infected food vendor.
I think I explained the rationale behind the protocol, the testing protocol that is in place at the moment. You have to show a certain level of symptom for them to move into testing, or you should have been named as part of the contact tracing to be tested, because other than that, you are talking about random testing, which is going to take away. And what you see, what people must understand, and I know people are agitated by this, being tested doesn't mean you won't get corona. Other than that, you'll be tested every other week. You understand? You'll be tested every other week. That is not how it works. But I can also understand the agitation of people who feel that just test us. But there's a limit to the resources that are available when it comes to this. The testing capacity, the persons who even do the testing, we have a limit to that as well. So people should also understand.
This one says he's around here with us. He has a poultry farm here at Adabraka, but he stays at Kolebu. How do I show, what identity must I show to the security personnel for them to allow me to go and check on my animals?
A lesson on formalization of businesses. You run a poultry farm. This should be a lesson, a prompt that beyond the COVID-19 crisis, you should register your poultry farm, whether it's small scale, medium scale. You should you should register some form of business and try to formalize, have IDs, and you never know when you need some of these things, because you live at Kolebu, your farm is at Adabraka. If you cannot move and poultry needs attention, that means you are losing your beds.
Close care.
If you are not losing, we're also losing our food. So find a way of explaining to the
security personnel.
Today we've had people move from different parts of the city, essential people move from different parts of the city to other parts where they were not stopped because there were no roadblocks. This lockdown feels, it looks flexible.
Yes.
So, and I know that the security services, they've been trained to listen. So explain and then get on with your business. But beyond that, try to formalize things a bit.
Okay, guys, there are a lot of questions from you. Our time is up. We can't take over. We'll try to reply them via the medium you send them. But thank you very much, Godfred Akoto Boati and Kojo Akoto.
Wait,
mention his name properly. I accept it.
If you don't mention his name properly, we will test you.
Akoto, what is that? How's that?
No wonder we are confident.
So he's Godfred Akoto Boati.
So Godfred
always a pleasure.
Boafo, and what's your name again?
Akoto Boati. We'll sign ourselves out.
Sign yourselves out. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. But keep your dial on the Citi 97.3 FM as well as Citi TV. Every second we'll give you updates on the COVID-19. And if you can't do the radio or TV, go to citynewsroom.com. We've got everything there. Thank you so much. Goodbye.